Trying to find an opening song. Not too many Limp Bizkit fans out there, but it's my show, right? Josh might have something to say about it. The reason why I'm playing this as the opening song today. All right. Gonna open up this show today with a little Limp Bizkit. And Limp Bizkit's one of my favorite bands. You know, they helped me with a lot of anger when I was younger, and I went to a lot of their shows and concerts and moshed at their gigs and everything. But all right, I am back. I'm back for another episode of Shooting the Breeze. The other one went pretty good the other day. I got to say, I'm getting some good feedback from some of my buddies out there who listened in. You know, I purposely sent it out to a lot of them because I talked about some heavy stuff the other day. You know, I got some stuff off my chest and nowhere near scratching the surface of what the stuff a lot of the stuff I need to talk about or want to talk about. But that's for when my partner comes around and we do our show. So, Josh will be around. Like right now, I said, I went to the doctor today. I was telling you guys my foot had a cyst in my foot that was hindering me from walking for a really, really long time. And, I'm going to get into this year on this podcast. And that's just one more thing that just added to build up of some of the stuff that happened last year. And, some of the good stuff, some of the bad stuff. But, I thought I had everything under control, like not under control, my health and everything. My stomach was feeling better with my diet. Went back to work, and then all of a sudden the foot started acting up again. The foot was something that's been bothering me for a really long time, but that this podcast is about. As men, we just put that shit in the back of our head and we just go to work. That being said, I went there today, and he said my foot's healing fantastic. It's the tissue is forming at a rapid rate. And I'd like to thank this guy. His name is he's a Ukrainian doctor from Sims and Associates. I can't pronounce his last name, but he did a good job. And he said I should be on my feet with no pain, 3 weeks tops. So like I said, that was just another obstacle that I really didn't expect to come my way. But seems to be that this foot healing up and this foot getting better is going to be the last of the stuff that I need to plug through this journey I have of, getting back to work and building New York City for the last couple of years. The thing that makes it, easier now is you're going back to work. And I don't know, there's a light at the end of the tunnel now. We get to that age where we think about retirement. And I know I'm young, and my wife really shed some light on that. I am pretty young to think about completely retiring, but I would like to be out of there in about 4 years when I'm on my 55th birthday. That is the plan right now, which leads me to about a little more than 3 years worth of work. So with the foot feeling better, stomach feeling better, the brain on its way to getting better, I'm going to be coming back to work soon, full force, hardcore, and I'm going to play out that string, as they say, and be the, whatever the union wants me to do. That's what I'm going to do. So that being said, coming back from that real soon. My job. Now, I think the profession that I'm in, you guys know me or don't know me. I'm a New York City iron worker with Local 580. Very proud to be a Local 580 iron worker. And my uncle Michael, iron worker, Local 580. My grandfather, iron worker, Local 580. My grandfather's brother-in-laws, Local 580. My great-grandfather, Local 580. Lots of pride and lots of history in Local 580 for the Murphy/Gilvey family. I take that seriously. Unions are taking a little bit of a beating these days. For what purpose, I don't know. But listen, all we really want is for everybody to get a working wage or living wage, right? Be able to support our family. Because at the end of the day, I could just tell from my profession, I know my other buddies, we all work hard in our own way. My job happens to be very physical. Get up early, you come home late, you go to work when it's dark, you come home when it's dark. But that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, like, a lot of that stuff that I talked about on the podcast the other day about, the backpack getting heavy and heavy and heavy. It's like when you work in an atmosphere like I've been working in for over 23, almost 24 years now, it's a very fast-paced atmosphere. It's an atmosphere where you can go and, I don't know, I think it's one of the last bastions of you could be yourself. You could turn around and go tell someone to go fuck themselves, or you could just, it's just like you could be yourself there, and that's kind of like very, it's very inviting for a lot of people, and you get a lot of people in our trades that, that was kind of like no one really, they didn't know what they were going to do with their life. They might have been a bad kid, might have been a good kid, might have been a top student, might not have. You run into people from every single walk of life in the union construction trades. And that being said, about the high pace of our job and the the just the go go go, the early up, the late to bed, tired, it kind of like that stuff builds up as just being tired and as just that stuff builds up. But you just push through because you know what, there's so much going on. And that was my point the other day about the backpack. Kind of not really paying attention to it. You don't pay attention to it, it's not there, and it just gets heavier and heavier. But when you come down, you turn 50 or whatever your age may be at that point, because I'm finding that a lot of men have that point. Mine was at 50. Other men maybe have it earlier. Maybe men have it later. But there's just that point in your life where you do have to take that shit off and be like, that's a heavy backpack, man. And again, like I said, that happened to me. And I had some time off from work last year. I did a lot of thinking, tried to work on my brain, my stomach, tried to work on everything going on in my family and everything. Not everything going on in my family, trying to work on everything. Just trying to work on myself, try to work on my relationships. And it's been taking a little while. My health is getting better. My foot's fucked right now, but at least that's not, anything new. But that's going to feel better in 2 weeks. But as far as my brain, the way I feel good. You know why? Because a lot of my friends feel the same way. A lot of people I just talk to randomly on the street, they feel the same way. It's just a matter of really just kind of coming out and just like saying shit because it's kind of, it's kind of weird. It's just and as men listen to this, I was going to equate it to something male related, but if there's any women listen to this, I don't want to turn them off either. We'll get to those stories afterwards, but something like when you're young, and you do something, or you for the first time, or you don't know how to do something, or you don't know what to do in a situation, you do it, and you're making a decision on your own for the first time. But along the way, a decision that you may make might be, wow, this might be a little embarrassing. Oh, wow, I don't know if this is right, or I don't know if this is wrong. But again, you're a young kid and you just like figuring it out. You know what I mean? Just figuring shit out. But I think it's similar to like, kind of like when you're older and like you're around guys like my age, or like I said to you before, when people actually hit that spot. I think it's kind of similar to like, like with me, I just, my whole, I'm riddled with ADHD. I'm going to go to that in a couple of minutes, but I have a lot of times where where I do shut down, and I think they call it something like a ADHD coma or something. I don't know what the fuck it is, but it's kind of like similar to kind of like a little bit of a depression that you get, from being high on your emotions all the time and just being the go 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 guy. And me telling you the other day and how taxing it is. It's like, but that just happens to be, a lot of stuff that you kind of think about. And I didn't think anybody else was kind of going through that kind of stuff. I thought that was just me. I thought that I was, overthinking the fact that I had to be that person, and what happens if I can't be that person. And that, like, I never thought that anybody else would have that same issue. So kind of wasn't worth talking about because, they're just going to be listening to me say something and they're going to look at me like I'm crazy anyway. Similar to like, that's kind of how men talk. And I think this podcast that we're going to start doing again and get back into, I'm hoping that, my goal is to be able to help most, predominantly, firstly and foremost, my friends, not that they need help or anything, or maybe they just need to talk, or that maybe they do have stuff they want to talk about. Also positive stuff too, man, because, listen, there is people out there that they just walk through life, everything's good and everything is good. But somebody's got that little something that they hang on to, that they're this way because of this, or they're that way because of that. But that's kind of like what I'd like to do. I want to talk to my buddies. I got some pretty entertaining friends here. I don't know if you guys remember a long, long time ago. Listen, I'm still building on this podcast. I'm still trying to figure out what to do. I'm still trying to figure out promotion, and I'm trying to find my niche and our niche. Got the sports show with E-Dubs, and me and Josh are doing this shooting the breeze. And I think the shooting the breeze thing is going to be our little niche because guys need a forum or a format to come out and say something about what's bothering them, and be in a format and a forum where you could say that and somebody else could turn around and say, yo, I feel the same way. Then you could either joke about it, you could cry about it, you could fight about it. There's a difference in relationships between how women have relationships and how men have relationships. Let's say 90% of each, because I'm not saying every woman and I'm not saying every man, but observed in my 51 years of being a man, or being a male, is that women tend to argue and bicker, amongst each other if they have friends, and sometimes best friends turn on other best friends. Like, I thought you might, it's kind of like a community of, they kind of don't let things go. They kind of argue. One person says something to the other person, and it's just a grudge is held for such a long time. Just women discuss things in their own head differently about altercations or arguments or disagreements. They think that there's a reason why that their point is not getting across. Now, men, we have a problem for the most part. We have a problem. We look at each other, we talk to each other, what's going on. It's like whether it gets violent, it might, because a lot of men are violent sometimes. Um, a lot of men choose to go that way with violence if it's something really bad. It could be yelling. It could be, a joke, laughter, humor. However, a man chooses to go at it and help you is pretty much because that person that you're unloading all your shit on knows your personality. Like, people that know me, I'm the guy, like, this kind of personality trait comes from something too. I'm going to go into also, but I guess I'm that guy that, I said to the other day about being the grenade thrower, the rage and the ADHD, but I'm gonna, like, something occurred to me. Like, again, we have friends, we have our group of friends, we have our group chats, and we have people that we, our buddies that we break. Excuse me, we break each other's chops, or whatever it may be. But I find myself being that, like, there's nothing really that even in joking matter, like, everybody kind of has that breaking point, I guess, or that cutoff point. I don't know what it is. Some people are a lot lower, and some people like me are up here, because there's not much really that could be said to me that would personally offend me. And that leads me to, when we do go on these kind of joking things, I'm kind of that guy that maybe I'll go too far sometimes. And I see that in myself sometimes, because sometimes I'll say something to a guy that we've been breaking each other's chops, and then I come back and nothing like, I would not personal, but just like breaking chops, like being really just raw and breaking chops. Because I said, if somebody were to say that to me, it wouldn't really bother me. I would just come back. But sometimes it winds up being that I say shit and be like, whoa, all right. But that's also another personality trait of mine, because I don't know, maybe just like, stuff has been said to me when I was younger, or that I just chose to be like a duck in that aspect, where people say shit and it just rolls off me like a duck. That's what they say, because I'm not really too keen on getting upset on what people say about me personally. My anger more comes about observances of things that I don't see are handled the right way. And that's listen, I can't. There are situations where I can't do that, and that's a problem that I do have. An attack on me is an attack on me. I could defend myself. I am where I am. I'm not gonna curl up into a ball if you hit me with some harsh shit. As a matter of fact, I'll probably thank you, because I said to you yesterday, every man needs that friend, to bounce shit off of. It's like, if anything, you say harsh shit to your friend at some point. You should thank him for that, because you know why? Who knows you better than your wife and your best friend? You know what I mean? Like, these are two people that other people are going to think, oh, funny, funny, laugh, laugh. Oh, what's going on with that guy? But your friend's going to come up to you and say, yo, listen, come over for a second. What the fuck was that all about? And that's what I mean about male friendships. Women friendships are different. And I think that's why, when it comes to men and women and the way they argue, and when they when they do fight, and when they do discuss things, it's why it is sometimes that I don't think women realize how not complex we are in our conversations, because it's very easy, it's very easy to appease us in a conversation. Whereas I just feel like women need information, information, information. Whereas more over communicating as opposed to under communicating, where maybe men under communicate. So those couples that find that perfect balance, that are the ones that, the ones that keep going, you know. But that being said, like, the ADHD stuff, for me, I'll just get into that, before I go into my other stuff. I talked a lot about the ADHD thing on the other podcast the other day, and got some feedback from a couple of people that listened to it and said it was great. A phone call today by somebody in particular, friend of mine. I'm not going to mention his name. I know this guy struggles. I do. I know he struggles, because I've seen it. And as a matter of fact, I think that he might have been part of one of those instances where just maybe I went a little too far and I said something, breaking his chops, because he is my friend. And I don't know. I think I found out kind of like down the line that, like we really kind of like hit him a little hard with a couple of things. And I just didn't see anything about it. I was tired. We working 7 days a week and it just fucking plowed through anything. And would you say to me, I'll say that back to you. I'm going to work. All right. I didn't realize that sometimes people, some people are really going through some shit, man, and that they hear it out loud. And, listen, it's not, you don't apologize as men to each other too for saying stuff because, right, you don't know what's going on, but, you'll discuss it and say, listen, that's fucked up and stop. But if the guys don't stop, then sometimes it, goes to blows. But, I was talking to him, I was actually talking to him today and so I'm trying to get him to come on, but he's got something kind of like the exact opposite of like what I kind of do. I mean, this is why I started this podcast. I started this podcast as kind of a therapeutic way of getting my shit out there and then being able to turn around and watch it or having my friends watch it. Or maybe hopefully one day people that don't even know me will watch it and some kind of assimilation to what I'm going through or some kind of, story that I don't know about. Because I do talk about how I do go too far sometimes with the ball breaking or I do go too far, but I do care. And by saying that, I mean, I ask a lot of questions to people. I ask people like how they're feeling. I ask people like what are they doing? Like if I'm in a normal conversation with somebody, I might come off maybe sometimes abrupt or maybe like a wise guy or maybe everything I talk about with people is all comes from a place of trying to gain knowledge from other people. Because I know I struggle with my shit. I know I do. And I know that it's my struggles. It's nobody else's. And how many and other people are being affected by it. And I know that now, but they're my struggles. And yours might be your struggles. And the other guy might be their struggles. So talk to this guy today. I was trying to get him on. And he's a mess. For lack of a better term, I guess he's kind of a mess. But what I am going to say about this guy is I try to get him to come on and talk because I really truly believe that if you have a lot of that shit bottled up inside of you and you just talk about it, like right now, I'm not really talking to, I don't know if people are listening, but I'm not really talking to anybody. I'm looking at a screen and I'm talking to myself. And it's kind of a good analyzation of yourself too about how your features are, how you react to some of the stuff that you're saying about yourself. So what I mean by that is he told me that he's not ready to come on and talk about all the stuff he's got going on because I don't know if he used the word embarrassed, not even embarrassed. He does care about what people think about him. That's the main thing I got out of the text I was texting with him. He says he like me, like I just said to you, I pretty much say whatever I want. I mean, I will watch what I say, about, certain things like, Shannon just wanted me to say certain things, but for the most part, 97%, I'm an open book. And he is the exact opposite. He thinks his book opens up and then people are going to laugh at him. He thinks if he says to somebody that I'm feeling a certain way about a situation that I had, that people are going to laugh at him. Now, I was one of those guys that he had that situation and I laughed at him. But I laughed at him because I thought I was making the situation light. No hard feelings. I'm not saying anything like that. But that was my outlet to try and make things okay with somebody who I knew was kind of struggling. But instead, I incited a little bit of anger in that person, and duly noted. But he just doesn't. He didn't really want to kind of, he didn't want to come out and talk about it, which is fine. I get it because there's two kinds of people. There's the people that want to talk about shit, and they have to work that out. And there's people like me who don't understand why you don't want to get it out. But that's it all comes with like I guess confidence or the way you put stuff out there. Like one person maybe thinks that they're putting it out there for sympathy. I put stuff out there because I really don't care what people do think about what I'm going through because I know for a fact 1, 2, 3, 4, many of you fuckers are going through the same shit that I'm going through. And there's stuff out there that you guys are going through that I have no idea about. But just know that we're men. Every man's got their own struggle, dude. And it's a great way to come out and talk about it. It's a great way to discuss shit with your buddies. It's a great way to, again, I don't even care if it's a sit down session and all you do is make fun of the fact that whatever that something happens, your friend has some kind of issue and you sit around, it's out in the open by a fire, drinking some beers or smoking some weed, and you just have like an all out session or you just make fun of them or whatever. And he just laughs and laughs. And it's like, that's how men get shit out. That's why the other day when I said on that, I got a little choked up the other day because I truly, truly believe as men, we need to be there for each other more than ever. We need to be there for each other, guys. And I do all this talking from a perspective of being a father of two males, of two young adult males who are about to be adults soon. And I went on the soliloquy the other day about how insanely proud I am of them, and I am. They're going to make their way, and they're going to be good people. They're also going to make their own decisions. When I say they're going to make their own decisions, they might make mistakes one day. They might, they're going to do good things, but they're set up in a way where they're starting to make their own decisions, like I said the other day, what kind of person they're going to be. And I just know the thing that makes me happy all the time is every time I see the two of them, to meet a new person, they'll look them in the eyes. If it's a man, shake their hand, firm handshake, or come back, look me in the eyes and smile. I was like, those are the kind of little things that we need to be taking, showing our kids. And we do. No, we do. Really, really, the other day I made some kind of a very bold statement. I don't know if anybody realized what I was saying. It's like, in my eyes, like there's stuff you can be, you could be a banker, you could be an iron worker, you could be a thief, you could be even a murderer, you could be like a bad guy or whatever. But if you're a father, you got to take care of the kids. Like I said, I'm sure there's assassins out there that have kids, but they take care of their kids. I'm sure there's some, there's dads out there doing stuff, and there's dads out there doing stuff. And at the end of the day, we're all fathers, and we take care of our priorities. And I think that's the separation factor that I see. You can't walk away from that. No matter what's going on in your life, like I said, there's some instances, like you might be got stuff going on, but at the end of the day, if you're a good father, but as a man, no matter what you got going on, you have to handle that responsibility. And I'm just talking about from a father of boys, because I don't have any girls, and I know a really good buddy of mine that has a whole bunch of girls, and that guy is a ridiculously good father, and he's got everything. I want to try and get him on. I want to see see if he could talk for a few about what it's like to raise a bunch of kids. I mean, I see all these guys on a daily basis doing it. And that's what pushes me through. You know what I mean, too? It's like I could have, I had a rough day, or this, or that. But you know what, though? When you get to work and it's 0 degrees and you see the guy that's got the 10 kids, and you see the guy that's driving 3 hours, and you see the single guy that's paying alimony out his ass and he's only making about $100 a week, or you see the 22-year-old kid that's sitting right next to you, freezing his ass off because he wants to work hard. It's like these are future and men now, that these are all men that are taking care of their responsibilities. And these men all need to be applauded. Not that they need to be applauded because they're doing something special, but if you look around, and it's going to sound like, oh, the poor man, but I just think like when you look around this day and age, I think there's a kind of like my wife my wife laughs at me when I say, gets mad at me actually when I say this. Happy wife, happy life thing. Men, are we listening? I mean, my wife says that a lot. And I understand it to a degree. I understand the happy wife, happy life thing. I do understand that, but it's got to be a two-way street with the happy wife, happy life thing. Happy house, happy spouse. I don't know, whatever it may be. But I don't know, that's I don't know. I forgot where I was going with that point. But I was trying to make a point on the differences between men and women and how we tackle certain situations. And why I was saying to my buddy there about how we'll get him on, and maybe he'll talk about what's going on in his own head, and maybe maybe we'll do something for him. You know what I mean? And anybody out there listening, or anybody listens to this podcast, if you guys are listening to the podcast, you probably know who I am, because I don't have millions of subscribers and millions of viewers, which I'd like to have, but hey, you never know. Maybe the right person's out there listening. But if any of you guys want to come on here and bullshit and talk, man, it's very easy. It's like, I'll throw up some softball questions and I'll just let you guys talk. Listen, I talk to some of these interviews that we do, and some of these people we talk to is like sometimes we'll sit around and we'll bullshit and we'll talk and look up and they're surprised that they've been talking for 2 hours, because the conversation flows and it goes and there's good information. It's just fun. And I think men need an outlet just to get even good stuff out. Men need an outlet just to be men, because when men are like men, really 15-year-old boys inside a 51, 60, whatever age you are, we're just really literally like 15-year-old boys inside that body. And we really literally just want to tell fart jokes. We want to just like giggle about stupid shit. We want to talk about pizza. We want to talk about who's got the best hamburger. We want to talk about the bands, what our favorite music is. And that's all stuff that the wives and the girlfriends don't want to hear. So it's kind of like when they fake like they want to hear that stuff about our day, they don't want to really hear it. But when you talk to your buddies about sports or music, or you talk like girls, bars, whatever it may be, like trips, where you've been when you were younger, like kid stuff you did when you were a kid, stuff you want to do, your goals, And it's like you're talking to somebody who's kind of on the same level. He's got a penis, he's got testosterone, and he's talking to you, and he's like, "Yeah, man, yeah." That's the kind of shit that men need. So I know I took it to the other level the other day. I kind of got choked up a little bit, and all men need that guy. We do, man. We do need that guy. We need that guy to when I got choked up the other day to hear that shit and turn around and tell us, straighten up your shoulders. What are you doing? Or to say, yeah, I hear you, man. Or to yell at me. And then if I turn around and punch you, be able to like, all right, I get it. Or vice versa. Or I get punched. We have to realize that this is somebody that cares about us. We do need that guy. And it'd be either that situation where we're upset or angry, or even that situation where we're just bullshitting and going back and forth about the Mets and the Yankees, or the Jets and the Giants, or who's the greatest boxer of all time. That's the kind of shit that we need. We need to get that stuff out. And I understand that there's levels of men's mental health. There's big, it fluctuates from here to there. Some guys don't even realize that they have anything going on right now, which I just figured it out myself. It's like we still need that kind of level of just getting our silliness out. And again, there's guys that they're up here. They got a lot going on. Then there's guys that are kind of like, floating around in the 1/4% of the really got shit going on, but all we really need is just an outlet to be silly. And I use that word silly. I say silly goose all the time. Silly is a great word because you know what? Those silly's like you being a kid. You're just being silly. And we can't do that in front of our wives. And we can't do that in front of girlfriends. We can't do that. It's just, we could do that in front of other men though. I'm trying to get some of these guys on here. My buddy Alex has videos on his phone from years ago of us just literally, and I say just being silly guys. So that's the point of kind of like what I was getting to the other day. We're going to touch on ADHD a lot in this podcast. But I kind of went over my experiences with it. Like, let me I want to touch on something about me. I was talking about my buddy Russ and Russ. Anyway, I was talking about him the other day to my buddy. And he said to me, and to be honest with you, I just mentioned the guy's name. That wasn't the guy I was talking about because he just texted me. That's the reason why I said his name. So that's not the guy I was talking about. But he just did text me and said that, he's listening to the show. But anyway, where was it? Okay, I'm going to tell something about me, about my struggles when I was younger. My struggles kind of when I was younger was kind of like, I can remember being in like kindergarten, first grade, second grade. Like I was kind of a little pussy when I was younger. I really was. I felt, I guess for lack of a better term, but there are men listening to this. And I guess I was somewhat of a little bit of a, I never really took charge. Like I never really, I was never the guy that was picked as a team captain or wanted to be the team captain in gym. I was picked kind of like last, not that I was like, unathletic looking, or I was like dorky looking, bowl haircut, whatever. But I don't know. I was very docile, I guess you would say, as a young. Like I remember kindergarten and first grade. Kindergarten and first grade, I just remember them very vividly, very vividly. Just being by myself a lot when I was in school. You know what I mean? And again, it's not so poor me. I'm just talking about like this is now we're going way back now. We're starting with I told you we're going to touch on all that shit. And I think that may be where some of that stuff comes from being that guy as I'm older that just wants to blow up a room. But at the end of the day, when I was younger, like I would sit by myself. Now I would see other kids going up to other kids and talking and listen, occasionally I had friends. I'm not saying I had no friends because I had friends. But when I was young, like I never like when somebody wouldn't come up to say anything to me, I would look at them and be like, what do they want to come and hang out and talk to me anyway? I'm just, I'm just me. I'm just sitting here just by myself. And I never, and that just kind of like, all the time, I by myself, or the occasional person come up and say hi, I'd have their friend, kindergarten, first grade, second grade friends. You get picked on a little bit, oh, you have freckles, you have silly haircut, whatever it is. It's just at the end of the day, it's like, the bullying in the school today is so much like so much different than it was back then. So, you just kind of had to like take everything on the chin. Like I wasn't made fun of often. I was, but it wasn't bad. I've seen other kids get a lot worse, but I spent a lot of time kind of being by myself because that's kind of, I just didn't think that anybody wanted to hang out with me. And, I played baseball and it was the same with the baseball team. I would want to play a position and I would never just go and grab that position because that person's going to be better than me anyway. So I'm not even going to try. But I think I kind of, during life, I kind of like spilled over, to a certain point. Like, even my relationships with my parents, when I was young. Like, I had these relationships with my parents where, it's that stuff we're really going to get into. We're going to get into relationships we have with our parents and, if they shape us or if they don't, but stuff like I just could remember, my dad was a New York City police officer. He worked in the city a lot. Um, that's about all I could say about it right now. It's like, my mom was home with us. This is growing up in Queens. She was home with us. She went to nursing school, Queensboro. We would always have a babysitter. We would always taken care of. She would always make sure when my dad wasn't home because he was out, somebody will come take care of us. But then she went to school. She became a nurse. Then she started working somewhere in Queens, Elmhurst Hospital. She was in, and still us living in Queens. And kind of like, I would have to pinpoint, I'm 11, 12, 13. You have your neighborhood friends. You have your friends in the neighborhood. You grow up and then you go to high school. And then, at some point, like my parents moved up to Brewster. And I decided not to go with them. And that became a whole big thing. And we're going to do a whole podcast on that part of my life. But for now, at some point along the lines of, I'd have to say maybe 19 to like 22, 3 maybe, I kind of just like woke up and says, what the fuck am I been such a baby for my whole life? Like, what the hell? What the hell am I, why am I keeping my mouth shut when people fuck with me? Why am I keeping, when people say something like that came like maybe a little earlier. My eyes opened a little bit when I was in my like 21, 22, but as I got maybe 23, 24, 25, that's when the whole thing started coming. Like, what am I was been so quiet my whole life. I'm like, why? Why? And that kind of like that personality, it was driven by quietness as a kid. It it developed into this personality that I am now, which I like. I like the guy I am. I got no problems with who I am. It's just the other day when I was saying how it's hard to show up all the time and be that guy. Because listen, 90% of the time I like that, man. But there's that 10% that you don't. And I think maybe that's where my personality developed from a little bit, meaning I didn't think anybody wanted to hang out with me when I was young, but now I'm that guy who everybody wants to talk to. That's also hard to grasp too, because like as I got older, friendships, I told you about that. I was kind of quiet when I was young, but I would always kind of, when I was older, maybe I was like in my 20s, early, maybe my 20s, I would say. I've always had these groups of friends. I have one, two, three, let's call them four groups of friends, but between the ages of like 18 and like 25. Yeah, these different groups of friends, which included my two cousins and all their friends, and I hung out with them all the time. They were my going out in the city, going to the bars, singing "Sweet Caroline." That was that crew right there. And I was, for lack of a better term, I'd show up with the baggy pants, hat backwards, collared, shirt sometimes, hand rolled up. I was Perp Richie to those guys, and I had so much fun hanging out with those guys. To this day, it was a great time. But then I would kind of like, disappear on them for a little while. My cousin would be like, what's going on? Where are you? But I never really felt missed in a group. Like I would just go on to the next group who was doing something else. Like we were hanging out in the park or we were doing something. We were doing like neighborhood shit. Then I'd kind of like disappear from that group for a little while. Then I'd find the group that I was going out to the clubs with. I was going out to, the Tunnel, Twilo. I was going out to Sound Factory, which became Pacha. I was going to all sorts of drum and bass clubs. I was going to raves. In that point in my life, I wasn't even drinking any beer anymore. I was just going to raves and going to parties and going to, and hanging out with that group of friends. And then, then maybe that would get kind of too much for a little while. And then I'd kind of like disappear and go back to the other groups, but that was my personality at a certain point in my life, to a point where I didn't think I didn't think I was missed in any of those groups, as opposed to, I just didn't think like anybody would ever think like, wait a second, where's Richie been? No, they're just going to go on with their lives because they have each other. And I'm just going to pop on and do my thing with these guys over here, or this girl over here, or that guy, whatever. It's just, that's the kind of stuff that I was thinking about at the time. I mean, obviously I couldn't have been more wrong, because I've hurt relationships with friends along the way a long time ago. At the end of the day, I married my wife, Shannon. I love her to death. I love her with all my heart. And there's reasons why I ran into her, but I'm sure I sabotaged other relationships when I was younger. I almost sabotaged, out mine and Shannon's relationship. We almost never didn't even get married. Didn't even get back together. I completely sabotaged that too. But by the grace of somebody, some people say God, some people say not, some people say energy. She came back to me, and we're here today. And everything that we've experienced from that day forward has been learning experiences and learning about each other and learning how to deal with each other and being strong and not being strong. And when I say sabotaged relationships in the past, I think, I just, why is this girl still with me? Or yeah, whatever. Those are the kind of relationships I'm talking about, like personal relationships. I'm sure I hurt a lot of people along the way, but ultimately brought me to my wife, who I have two beautiful kids with, and we have a great marriage. So maybe some of those relationships needed to be sabotaged with women along the way. But I've sabotaged relationships with friends, friends I haven't talked to in a long time, friends I don't talk to anymore because what are they don't want to hear from me, or I just get caught up in other things. And then when I think about it, it's like, wow, I haven't spoken to them in like 6 months. I'll just wait. So then it becomes that kind of problem. Like I haven't spoken to them in a long time. So, but, and I say this with conviction from a place where that's kind of stuff doesn't bother me anymore. It did bother me. It did. But I'm at a point now in my life as a 51-year-old father, a 51-year-old husband, that that's really, really at the end of the day, all that matters. If all that stuff is good, then I'm good. And if I have some friends along the way, which I do, who are in the same boat as I am, the older you get, it's like some people understand and just some people don't. And I just have to come from a place and let everybody know that, like, that is what comes first, no matter what. It could be something really important outside of the family, compared to something kind of small within the family. I'm always picking within the family. That's what it is. And it goes back to being a parent and going back to being a father. It's like I love that stuff. I love being a dad. And I'm going to bring up maybe an unpopular opinion right now, or unpopular point. It's not even an opinion because I'm going to mention our president right now, and in no way, shape, or form am I going on here and letting you guys tell me that he talked about Joe Biden. Is he a Joe Biden fan? I am not a Joe Biden fan, guys. I didn't vote for him, and I'm not a fan of his. But I'm not going to go over my political beliefs right now. I'm going to go over something that I've been thinking about over the last couple of weeks, and even while doing this podcast, it kind of makes some sense in my head. I talked a lot last week about a father and son's relationship. Now, father and son's relationship, I could tell you from firsthand experience. I could tell you what it's like. I can't tell you what a mother and son's relationship is, but I know what a father, and I could tell you from my perspective of being a son, but I could tell you from a father perspective and a son perspective, I could tell you what that's like. Now, what that's like is I see a meme all the time, and I look at my kids sometimes and they ask me, like basically, I know it's a meme, but if something really bad would happen, it's like, it's like something happens, like, where are we going to hide the body? Or what are we going to, it's something you back your kids up no matter what, no matter what they do, no matter what they say, no matter what they are, no matter where they go. You back them up no matter what. You handle stuff on your own as a father, not saying stuff sliding, not saying that at all. But there's hoops and leaps and bounds and mountains to climb and feelings to go over, and thinking that if your son does something really bad and going through the denial your entire life of it's not that bad, it's not my son, and then coming to realizations that yes, it is that bad, it is that bad. Now, I'm using Joe Biden and Hunter Biden as an example. And listen, I'm not, again, this is not a political show. This is a show talking about fathers and their sons. Hunter Biden's a piece of shit, dude. He, what that guy has done in his life, I hope he go. Listen, we could all hope that he does get jail time. He does go to jail. We could all. He's done so many bad things in his life, and it just happens to be that his dad is the president of the United States. Now, hear me out here, guys. Your father's a cop. Your father's a lawyer. Your father's a judge. Your father's something, whatever. They're going to get you out of trouble. They're going to get you out of a DWI. They're going to get you out of a fight. They're going to get you out of something without talking about it. You and him have something to discuss, obviously, but your father is the president of the United States of America. So if you tell me for 1 second that this president that running our country right now, for 1 second, is going to do anything in his power to not make sure that his son is okay, even though he knows deep down inside his son is guilty, his son's garbage, his son's this, it's a reflection of the father-son relationship. He has to get him out of trouble by any means necessary. A man said that a long time ago, and but he needs to get his son out of trouble by any means necessary. Now, I'm not sticking up for what happened. As people looking in, reading the papers, seeing it on the news, it's like, yeah, it's like, God, Joe Biden sucks, terrible president. Yeah, he is, blah, 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 blah. Whoever you feel about president, whatever. But just look at it from a personal point of view and realize that he's a dad and he's got a son that needs a lot of help, man. His kid's in a lot of trouble. He's a drug addict. He's got, prostitute problems, computer problems, tax problems, and his father's just trying to make that shit go away. Because at the end of the day, his father, was like, he shouldn't be our president right now. And I know I'm saying that. I don't know if I'm going to piss anybody off by saying that, but guy shouldn't be our president right now. But he's a dad and he's trying to get his kid out of trouble. I just want to say one more thing about the father thing. It's like, if you look at people that would do anything for their kids, look at a guy like Andy Reid. Andy Reid's a football coach in the NFL. He's a Super Bowl winning head coach with the Kansas City Chiefs. He coaches Pat Mahomes. This is a man podcast. I'm assuming that 99.99999% of you know who Andy Reid is. Andy Reid coached for a long time in the NFL. Probably going to go down in history as one of the greatest coaches ever. With that being said, he's got 5 kids. He's married. He's a Mormon. Went to Brigham Young University where he met his wife. They got married in 1981. And along the way, Andy Reid has coached for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's coached for the Kansas City Chiefs. And he's won a lot of football games. He's won a lot of playoff games. He's lost a lot of playoff games. He's been in the limelight as a coach for a very long time. And he's going to be regarded as one of the most respected, if not best coaches ever to put on a coaching whistle. But like I said, he has children. He has 5 kids. He has 2 daughters, which I couldn't really find too much about the daughters because we know about the sons. We couldn't really find out too much about the daughters except the fact that, they really keep to themselves. One is married and the one isn't. But now let's go over this timeline here for a second. Okay. Now, Andy Reid's been a coach a really long time. Philadelphia Eagles, very high stress situation games. What's his name? Was his quarterback back then, throwing up all over the place. He had Terrell Owens screaming at him all day long. But while all this is going on, Andy Reid is a football coach, head coach for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's got a son named Spencer. His son named Spencer's a good kid. He goes on these missions for the church. He played football for Temple University, and I think he's in kind of like the field of, I think he's like a strength and conditioning coach right now. It escapes me where I wrote it down, but it escapes me right now. But then he's got Garrett and Britt. Okay. Now you're a father and a husband and a wife, father and mother. You have 5 kids. 3 of them, there's really not much out about them. I don't know if what they did, how they were when they were young, but it seems to be everything was copacetic. Then you have Britt and Garrett. Now, Garrett died of a heroin overdose in 2012. His son Britt I don't know if he's still in jail or he might be getting out of jail. He smashed into a car while he was drunk, almost twice the level, and smashed into a car who had a poor 6-year-old little girl in the car. Fortunately, she didn't die, but she was in a coma for about 10 days. And that coma led to her kind of really needing to learn how to walk again. And needless to say, he turned somebody's life upside down, completely upside down. And because he was drunk driving. Now, you could say, oh, he was drunk driving. He's like, I don't know, maybe it was the first time he did it. Like, well, what's going on? But no, I mean, you want to go back. Garrett, dead of a heroin overdose. This guy's in jail right now. In 2007, the 2 of these knuckleheads decided it was a good job to start selling drugs out of their house. It might have been Andy Reid's house. I don't know if it was Andy Reid's house or it was one of their houses, but I'm pretty sure it said in the article that it was Andy Reid's house. So they get arrested for that. Also in the same year or a couple of years ago, Britt was driving and he got pulled over for a felony DWI, and he pulled a gun out on a couple people and threatened a lot of people. So the point I'm making is Andy Reid's had his hands full with these two kids for a very, 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 very long time. Now obviously it's not the first time the kid did heroin, and obviously it's not the first time the kid drove drunk. We all have our problems. I'm not saying that, but I'm talking about it from a man perspective of being a father and dealing with that stuff and watching this guy on the sidelines coach an NFL football team. Now, I'm not an NFL football coach, but I gotta tell you, I think being an NFL football coach probably takes a lot of your time. I mean, days and days of 18, 20-hour days just looking at film and trying to win games, all the while he's dealing with his two kids who he's trying to protect 24 hours a day. He knows his kid is going to be out driving around drunk. He knows his kid is going to be down. I guess maybe when they were living in Philly, maybe he was down in Kensington trying to get some heroin. He knows that those two kids are going to screw up again. But you know what? He's going to be there for them because it's a father. You know, I mean, obviously, you guys are dads who are listening. Some of you aren't. You just have to really know what you're dealing with there. But again, from a father's perspective, is you have to protect your kids. You got to protect you've got to protect them until I guess there's a threshold. I mean, the threshold for good parents is very, very high. But the threshold for Andy Reid is, the kid was a coach on his staff in 2000 whenever the Chiefs played last Chiefs Super Bowl or the one before that. He was a coach on his coaching staff up until a couple of years ago. Now he's in jail, and Andy Reid has to deal with a dead son because of a heroin overdose. Now he has to die. He has to deal with a son that almost killed a 6-year-old girl because he was drunk driving, and also did 23 months for selling drugs, waving guns. Like, these guys, they weren't good guys. They weren't good kids. They were probably a handful when they were 10. They were probably a handful when they were 15. So the point I'm making is, at the end of the day, dads, just be good dads out there, man. And everything will sort itself out. But, no matter what it is, kids are going to make mistakes, man. Kids are going to amaze us with how smart they are. They're going to amaze us with their abilities. They're going to amaze us with their beautiful minds and their thoughts. But there are times when kids are going to make wrong decisions, or they're going to make decisions that are not conducive to what you or he spoke about going forward and being a good person. And that's when you have to have these conversations and these real conversations and stay on top of it. I know a couple of people that have said to me in the past that they don't know how to talk to their sons. I always say to them, I always ask them why. And they always say to me, they don't want anything to do with me, or they just close the door, or they just tell me to shut up. And I always tell them, I said, at a young age, I said, I forced conversation with my kids. That's going to sound like a little crazy mentality about forcing conversations with your kids, but not allowing your kid to say, get out of my room, or no, when something's up, or something's going on. Our house has, listen, I could tell you, I could tell you stuff, examples, but the house in these four walls, there's 100% honesty with our kids. There is nothing that my children cannot do, cannot go through, cannot experience that I would not be on their side or to help them get through it. And this last year and a half is just an indictment to what complete honesty with your children is. If your children know your side of the story of what you came from, and then they find out, why they do some things, or why they're a certain way, or why their thoughts are something, it's like, then that's how you create dialogue, man. And you don't go through your life thinking about, like, why did this happen to me? Or I can't believe I'm doing this, but I never saw this. Or like, I'm reacting this way towards I'm such a good dad, and I'm such a good parent. It's like, but sometimes I think about it, it's like, how? It's like, it's just like the fact that you just put yourself below everything else once you have these two kids, or once you have your children, it's the most unbelievable feeling in the world. Now, came on. Did about 50 minutes. I'm going to put this out here later on a what do you call it? On a on a podcast. But I appreciate it, and I just want to tell you about one thing here, though. One thing is, I'm trying to get my boy Ernie on. Ernie's actually the first person I met when we moved up here 19 years ago, and I coached t-ball with him, and we just continued to be great friends through the years. I definitely don't see him as much as I'd like to. Again, that's my fault. They call all the time. They always want to do something, but it just stuff, gets in the way, I guess, sometimes. But I'm going on a ride with him next week and he's a truck driver. And I'm gonna pop in his cab with him. And he has allowed me and given me the go to put my YouTube Live app on. And I'm gonna be asking him some questions, talking to him, seeing how he feels. Maybe I get something out of him. Now, Ernie's a very closed book. Ernie's very, he looks like he hard nut to crack, but he is a phenomenal guy and a phenomenal dad, and works very hard. So that's what I'm going to be doing next week. We're going to get that on the calendar, and I'll let you guys know when that is. So that's me and Ernie next week, and I'm going to be doing a lot of these coming up. Maybe even try to get somebody to come on tonight. But any of my boys out there, just hit me up on a text, email me, whatever you guys want to do. Later on, this is going to be out as a podcast on Apple and Spotify. And thank you again for joining me this afternoon, guys. I got some shit to do, and I'll see you guys later.